Hello everyone, my name is Thad McCracken and this is my dog Zeke. This is a lecture entitled Advanced Metaphysics, the evolution of the golden rule and the nature of daemonic entanglements. And of course, for those of you that read my writing are well aware of the fact that I talk a lot about karma. And this is an occult concept, and I find it fascinating that a lot of people, when I mention these concepts in my writing, I'll typically get several messages from people online, from people of the more occult persuasion, really of the more psychedelic persuasion, insisting that karma is something that people just make up. I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about why it is that I talk about this so much. And first, this comes from before I ever got into the occult. I of course experimented with astral projection for quite a while, and in experimenting with Robert Monroe's techniques for astral projection, while not being able to astral project in the traditional concept that he describes, I was in fact able to, I activated something in my brain states, something that I still haven't been able to turn off to this day, and every now and again, so including lucid dreaming and a lot of other what I call astral contact encounters. And so this would be one of those. And the funny thing is, because of having terrifying experiences with Robert Monroe's techniques, I had actually been avoiding using the tapes and intentionally trying to astral project for years. And then, but you know, again, there's lingering effects to these things. And one night, and I know I was particularly drunk this night, I ended up having one of these astral contact experiences, and I kind of woke up in this state, and there were two entities judging me in this state, or not judging me. But what I was being shown was what I can only refer to as a fifth-dimensional map of consequence. And what I was being shown was that a lot of negative aspects. It was almost like a graph or an interactive kind of software device. And it was showing me that things that I'd screwed up, things that I hadn't gotten right in life, places where I had been a source of pain or suffering or some kind of negative consequence or line of consequences in the plot line. And the most fascinating thing about this was how intricate the karma was interlinked. I think we like to think about karma as traditional things. Like if I was going to say, think about my karmic impact, and times I would have a negative karmic impact, I would think about the time I, say, cheated on my girlfriend and stayed out all night and didn't really call, you know, and this is something that I would think about directly that, oh yeah, well that's going to come back at me because that was, you know, but and partially because I'd had similar things done to me, so you know, so it's something you can relate to. But what this was showing me is that your actions as a whole cause ripple effects that you're never going to see, but you're going to be judged on. And this is particularly interesting for someone who is, say, a writer, or maybe you're a bigwig at a corporation or something like that, that has a wide stretch. When your actions affect a lot of people. Think about it as a writer. You write a book. Somebody reads that book and it pisses them off. That's on you, even though you're not seeing any of these things. If you're a musician, you make an album that, you know, or you play a show that someone gets so wasted at that they, you know, it ends up ruining their life and they hate your music for that, or your song is the justification for someone to commit murder, or something like that. You know, these are just examples, but this is what it was showing me. And what is so bizarre about this is we do not think about, as mentioned, karma in this specific a way, and yet these are your actions. If I, say, write an article on the internet, which I do now, it spreads out and it does have a ripple effect. It's something that I did personally. It was an action that I did, and it has a ripple effect. and it actually affects the lives of a lot more people, and I'm not seeing any of that. So what this was showing me is that you have to answer for all of this. And it was showing me all these things, and it just kept going. And then you did this. And sometimes it was things as much as, like, I used to drink pretty heavily back in the day. And sometimes it was things as weird as you know, had a conversation drunkenly with somebody, and something that you said stuck in their mind, and they went home and were mean to their wife or girlfriend. And you know that's on you. Like, some of this stuff seemed really petty. And the story gets pretty hilarious in that eventually I got sick of it, and I was just like, fuck you, you know. I was such a petulant young man. I was just like, to these spirit entities, I'm like, fuck you then. What was the point? Why, if all I was going to do was fuck all this shit up, then why was I sent down here? And with that, there was kind of another guardian entity. I can actually put Zeke down here for a sec. There was another guardian entity. And that entity showed up and said, oh no, and it showed me this other stack of kind of the negative or pain-inducing consequences were kind of coded in this red interlocking pattern. And then this other entity said, oh no, never, you know, yeah, we're showing you what you screwed up, but then they simultaneously showed me a tower to the heavens. And it was like this kind of golden tower, and this is the positive effect of your actions. So just as I'm getting frustrated, and then they showed me that the tower to the heavens dwarfed the impact of my negative actions. Now, of course, you're working on the model of other things I've seen with astral projection, and after years, I finally have put together that there was kind of my demonic guardian entity and your angelic guardian entity. And that's what was going on, is what's called a life review. And that was the other thing, is looking, this is not uncommon in near-death experiences. When people have near-death experience, and it's called a life review, and these people, again, see the perspective of their actions from multiple different perspectives and see how the effect that they've had on others came back at them. And they'll even see, and they'll see the pain they caused imposed upon others, and they see the joy they brought other people in their lives. And so this is not that uncommon a thing. I just somehow happened to wander upon it through astral projection. Now, the other thing that's utterly confusing about this is, what were they showing me in my life? Was this my cycle of my karmic impact to my cycle of lives up to this life? Was this the karmic impact of this life here? Or was this, I don't know. I mean, it's like any great writing, it's as ambiguous as it is, as many questions as it answers, it opens a million more interesting questions. But also goes along with, all of our religions are essentially based on the idea that life is some sort of morality test. And this is kind of what it's showing me too, that to get to these higher realms, the heavenly realms as we call them, which are metaphorically represented in our world as the sky, with the sun being the God in the sky, the life-creating God. And in your dream world, and that is a representation of, when you get into astral projection, and this is something Kurt Leland turned me on to in some of his books, was that there is layers of reality, higher ones, or more heavenly realms that are less structured, less tedious, and lower realms, like the one that we're in, which are more tedious and more just, you're kind of bound. It's not as unlimited from the perspective as imagination as the higher realms. And that's what the point to life is. And this is the occult. Some people fail to understand that, like I said, I get a lot of occultists. Anytime I bring up karma, I end up catching a bunch of shit because a lot of occultists like to think that, you know, or buy into the stark or the dark, doomy aspect of the way this practice has been marketed. And yet, say the basic premise of Hermetic philosophy is that you're trying to ascend to godhood. And before I'd ever really gotten into the occult, I'd really started seeing this in my dreams. That in certain states, rather than being just a person, that I am an entire city, an entire planet. And I've even had dreams where, more astral dreams, where it's almost like I'm creating another planet with someone else in another entire world, in much the same way that a man and woman create a child, and that is a metaphorical representation for this higher level functioning. And so anyways, this vision represents the ascent to godhood, and ultimately the idea that you have the negative consequences of your actions, or the consequences of your actions that cause pain, create unresolved plot points that then you have to reincarnate into the time stream to fix if you're going to ascend to godhood. And therefore the good deeds kind of build a bridge or a ladder to get to this higher realm. Just absolutely fascinating stuff. And also, this whole thing then, the nature of the demonic entanglement becomes more clear. There are so many stories of somebody making a pact. It's the traditional devil making a deal with the devil story. That you make a pact with the devil, and when you make a pact with the devil, it gives you some kind of benefit in the worldly realm, and yet there's a price. There's always, you owe the devil or the demonic entanglement, the demonic entity, your soul. And again, this is based, this is reflected through this vision that I had years before I ever got into the occult, and it makes perfect sense. You know, Jesus said it's easier for a camel to go through the head of an eye of a needle than for a rich person to get in heaven. Wealthy people or people with fame have a much broader consequence to their actions than people that are poor, because their actions affect a lot more people. Especially when thought about in the context that I was talking earlier, when you're not directly seeing, you know, say you're a famous rapper and you make an album that sells 1 million copies, but it has a bunch of really exploitative lyrics that a bunch of kids go out and then glamorize, say, doing Vicodin or something like that, say Eminem, and then, you know, that's on you. So in elevating yourself to this demonic position of power in this realm, ultimately, you're trapping yourself to the lower realms. Also, potentially, you might have the ability to get higher, to ascend higher because of the impact that you had. But it's a devil's gamble, and there's the trick, is you think you want these things in the material realm, but actually, these are the things that are going to prevent you, potentially, from ascending heavenward. And again, I've also been shown in various states that the reality we live in is like a comedy and ultimately like a parody. And again, this idea that we live in this culture where we want material success and we want fame, and ultimately these things that we want so desperately are actually things that are binding us to the lower realms by creating plot lines, stories in the Earth dimension that we then have to come in and clean up. Well, anyways, that was probably way longer than any of you wanted me to rant about, but I will hopefully start doing some more of these soon, and just keep on the lookout, and remember to pick up my book, The Galactic Dialogue, Occult Initiations, on Amazon, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you will keep getting more weird videos such as these. Thank you so much.